Hey everybody, Eric Switzer here for The Gamer here with another episode of Your Favorite Game, joined by my co-host George Foster.
Hello.
And the Gamer's Editor-in-Chief Stacey Henley.
Hello.
Okay, today we are talking about boss fights.
Yes, we are.
Perhaps the most ubiquitous video game mechanic, quality, the thing that's
Feature?
in the most video games.
It's the most video game thing.
Yeah.
Besides game overs.
For sure. Let me start off with something controversial. That's always a good way to start, right? There are more bad boss fights than good ones.
Yeah, I actually struggled. I have some.
No, I didn't struggle at all. Nah.
I thought about it, and every time I thought of a series that I generally think to be good, I was like, oh, no, actually.
I
not.
struggle with this, but not because I know that there's a lot of boss fights I like, and I had a hard time coming up with them. I had the sense that there are really great boss fights in my past, and I'm hoping you two will come up with all the ones I couldn't think of. Because to be honest, I often in a lot of games I dread boss fights. I think boss fights exist in a lot of games where they don't need to be because it's just sort of a thing you do in a video game. And I detest having to redo the same thing over and over most of the time, unless that's sort of core to the experience of the game is to do something over and over, like Destiny. So when I get stuck in a boss fight, it really bothers me. Like, it really gets to me that I'm wasting my time and that the game's wasting my time.
I only ever feel like that when I'm doing reviews. I don't like changing the difficulty settings on reviews because often when we're doing reviews, we're also doing like guides and stuff for it, and we're trying to figure it out. So like, especially when you have a tight deadline, and then you have like just a roadblock that just won't go away. It does start to get to you, but I don't feel that way as much playing like other stuff in games, I suppose. Like when I'm just playing for me, I find them less annoying. But I don't play some of the really big boss heavy. I don't really play Souls-likes at all, which is famous for. It took me 7 hours to defeat this monkey. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't really play those, so I don't necessarily really have that experience. George, I think the more than
out of the three of us,
but not. There's definitely people at the site who are pretty hardcore into the Souls genre.
Right. I could only really tell you one, and we'll get to it at some point. But I'm going to change my tune for once and say I bloody love boss fights. They are some of my favorite moments in games. I've been excited for this one.
I found this a lot easier than Dragons and Endings. Sometimes we kind of sit and do decide the next few episodes at once. So I was planning all of these together, and I found it easier to come up with a longer list than this. I really like the ones that I picked for the other two. Got to talk about two of my favorite games, but I found I was able to have a deeper list for this one. Like when you said you had like loads with multiple endings, I was like, oh, I couldn't really think of that many. Yeah. And then when we're talking about them, I got what you were saying about stuff. But yeah, I'm with George. I really love like boss battles as a mechanic. I think it might be because we both came up like in video games on platformers. That was like our first thing, and they're really heavy on like they have permission to have more inventive boss battles because they don't need to be embedded in reality in the way that like an RPG one does. So maybe it's from that. I certainly had some platformers on my list when I was narrowing stuff down. So yeah, I like them.
Well, good. I suspect that Stacey's picks and side chicks are going to carry us a lot in this episode because my list is actually pretty short, but I'm excited to hear what you both have. Maybe on that note, I should start this week. Go ahead. Is that okay?
Yeah, Eric, what is your favorite game with boss battles?
Great. I actually don't know if we've talked about this game on the show, but we talk about this game all the time off camera. My favorite game with boss battles is Marvel's Midnight Suns.
Oh, no, we haven't. I don't think we have done that on the show. Yeah, we do chat about that game a lot.
Stacey, you and I have a lot of passion for this game. George, you've dabbled, right? You've played some of it.
I dabbled after you recommended it.
And you always promise you're going to finish it, and I know you never will, but I love you anyway.
15 hours. I did my time. Like
It's not a 15-hour game.
25%
Did the
of it.
prologue. Yeah.
One day.
I don't think I did all the DLC, mind.
Okay.
I just never, but I
Fair
did
enough.
finish the main campaign.
The DLC is not great. That makes sense, but you're missing Storm, which is huge.
Yes,
So
And
and
Deadpool.
Morbius.
well, yes,
Uh.
and Deadpool and Morbius,
Two
and
wolves.
and I can't remember who the fourth one was.
Venom, isn't it? No, Venom's there.
It is Venom.
Anyway. Is it Venom?
You're right. It is
Venom's
Venom.
in the main campaign, but you recruit him in the DLC.
But you recruit him in the DLC. Yeah. Yes, I have a deep love for this game. One of the most underrated, and was devastated when Firaxis essentially fell apart over the poor performance of this game, because it's incredible. It's inventive. I'm not here to, I guess, pitch the game specifically. I just think more people should have played it, and maybe will in the future.
100%, and also make a sequel.
Yeah. The boss fights in particular are really a high point of this game because of how much they reinvent the game. The sort of loop of Midnight Suns doesn't change that much. You take 3 heroes, you show up in a grid. There's not that many different ones. You might be in a street, you might be in a sewer. And you use the same cards and you fight the same types of enemies. And while I think the game does a lot with a sort of limited scope of variables, it does get repetitive just because of the nature of it. And I think the boss fights do so much to change up that formula and add a lot of depth and complexity to the strategy that is only for that fight.
Yes.
I find them to be very iconic. I think most people would agree that the Venom Church Bell
with the
boss
bell
fight
and the
comes to
symbiote
mind.
is the best one.
You told me
and
about that ages ago.
So this fight is that you are. It's a lot like the movie. You're fighting Spider-Man 3. You're fighting Venom in a what is that called?
Bell Tower?
The bell tower.
Bell Tower? Yeah.
A belfry.
Belfry.
Belfry. That's the Belfry.
And to weaken him so that you can actually do damage to him, you have to stun him by attacking the bells, and then the sonic force of the bell causes him.
Venom's weak to sound.
Yes, he's weak to certain frequencies.
Yeah.
And there's a big pit in the center because you're at the top of a belfry. So he is summoning enemies. You have to balance when you're attacking the bells, when you're dealing with the enemies, and when you are trying to essentially set yourself up to do as much damage to him all at once while he is stunned. And trying to manage all of those moving pieces it's just a really cool challenge. And I think that all of the boss fights in Midnight Suns have a really cool twist on the formula like that.
They are hard as well. Challenge is the right word.
They are tough, yeah.
They are very hard. A couple of other highlights. I really enjoyed the Sabretooth boss fight because the sort of wrinkle to his fight is that he does not wait for the enemy turn to attack. He is on a turn timer. So every 2 actions you take, he gets to take his action. And no other fight in the game works like that. The rest of the game is my team.
Because you get cards and you get turns for the rest of the game.
Yeah. My team goes, then the bad guys go, and then my team goes. But with him, he is always acting on your turn and on the enemy's turn. But you have to you really have to think about each action, where your characters are going to be, what position they're like, and plan out. I know he's going to attack me every 2 actions I take.
I'm never going to finish this game. This already sounds overwhelming. Oh my God.
Yeah, but there's so many good ones. The Crossbones fight on the rooftop that introduces Captain America.
Yeah. The circle rooftop, and you get the 2 levels of it, isn't it? Because one's like the glass fence around it.
Yep. Yeah, that's such a great fight. The when they introduce the Nest Mother and you learn about how to like break the stones to stop her from summoning more guys. Like all these boss fights are really good at splitting your attention and making you prioritize, because you only have so many actions per turn and there's threats coming in multiple ways, and you have to eliminate the highest threats first and work your way down. And that is such a like constantly changing from turn to turn challenge. Man, they're just so good. They're just so well designed.
I think it's the way it uses the battlefield that makes Marvel's Midnight Suns so impressive as well, because I know it's basically Marvel's XCOM, but for me, the comparison I've always drawn with it is Fire Emblem, because, it takes place on a grid. You have each kind of unit has different abilities. Obviously, in this case, it's, Captain Marvel and Captain America and Iron Man. But I love Fire Emblem, especially Three Houses, but when you have like the boss battles near the end of the chapters in those, you don't really get a sense of that you're fighting something that is changing the way the battle works. So yeah, right at the end, okay, you fight a dragon and it's a dragon. But mainly it's just kind of a slightly bigger army, or there's kind of a bit of a maze to go around. They don't really use the field as effectively, whereas everything in Midnight Suns, it's unique to that. Venom takes place in a bell tower, not because that's a cool place for it to be, not even because it's a reference to the movie, but because the specific mechanics of the boss battle require a pit in the middle, a kind of traversal challenge in terms of getting around, and a way to split your focus that isn't just, do you go to this corner or that corner? Like there's different ways around, and there's obviously certain characters can traverse in different ways, and Venom can attack you, can just tie you up, or symbiote you, and you get kind of stuck. Then there's also do you go and free this character, or is it actually better to leave them because the turn economy works better to just kind of sacrifice them? I think the way it uses the characters is what makes it so special in that sense.
I only really like Spider-Man. I like to jump around as him. That's the limit. Like I did think the combat was
Spider-Man's
great
in the game, and it's exactly as well.
He does that move where you use the card and he can he's the only one with great traversal, so he just zips over to the other side.
He does get.
That's my memory of Midnight Suns.
Spider-Man was good.
Yeah.
No magic, but Spider-Man was good.
Oh yeah, magic.
The crossbones fight I was mentioning, his is so cool because the first time you hit him, he gets a crazy shield. The first time you hit him each turn, and then you have to be like, okay, am I going to punch through this shield to do more damage,
or just leave
wait
him
to the next turn? Yeah, like I said, every fight really changes how you have to approach it. I think it's so cool. Love that game. Who's next?
Big Marvel's fans.
Should we go to George? George, what's your favorite game with boss fights?
My favorite game with boss fights is Kingdom Hearts 2.
Oh my God.
I can finally talk about Kingdom Hearts as my nomination. Nothing good has come up.
Stacey's going to take a coffee break.
Yeah, for those unaware, Stacey is not the biggest Kingdom Hearts fan, whereas Eric and I are brain rotted to all hell.
It's different though, because I am quite a big Disney fan. You are quite a big Kingdom Hearts fan. Eric is someone who is both.
Yeah. Yes.
Go ahead. Tell me why this boss battle is great.
But before you start, Kingdom Hearts 2, while I agree is the best one,
you're going to say Kingdom Hearts 1.
Kingdom Hearts 1 has better.
Oh, for God's sake. We have this argument so much.
We can get into that.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. I do want to get to that. I know why you're going to say it. Yeah. But Kingdom Hearts 2 for me, mechanically, in the whole series, Kingdom Hearts 2 is the most satisfying combat by far. I don't think they've ever topped it. It's very, I don't want to say DMC. It's not DMC-like, but it's very character action in a way. And you can just, Sora has so many moves that you can do. You can pull off so many things. You can combo magic into Keyblade attacks and use summons. The list of what you can do in Kingdom Hearts 2 is endless, and they've never captured it since. And for most of the game, unless you're on critical, which is the best way to play, I will say, you don't really need to use any of that. You can do a combo into a magnet and be like, wow, I'm cool, but you don't have to. It's not needed. But in the bosses, that's where they actually ramp up the difficulty. It's not just enemies going down a few hits. You actually have to think about what they're doing, react to their attacks. They've got patterns, gimmicks, and it's just, there are so many good ones. I've got a big list, but I think my favorite would be the Roxas fight. that you do in the world that never was.
Oh, that's not even a Disney thing. That's just
I
a
can't
Kingdom
even
Hearts
picture
thing.
what that one is.
What?
Is he the bald fella or not?
Roxas, he's his nobody.
Please explain. Please explain who Roxas
No, oh
is
god,
to
we're not doing.
Stacey.
Yeah, okay. So
Go on.
when Sora sacrifices himself in the first Kingdom Hearts to unlock Kari's heart from within him, he spawns a nobody, which is when someone with a particularly strong heart fades to darkness. They get a nobody who is usually, stay with me here, an exact replica of the person. But because
Like a
Sora
dark
had
clone.
yeah, kind of. They
Okay.
But they don't know.
yeah, and they're
Right,
not
okay.
necessarily evil. They're just a copy, basically. And because Sora had Ventus's heart within him, instead of looking like Sora, he looks
Just
like
going to
Rocky.
breeze past what the hell that means, sure.
Yeah, just go with that part.
Yeah, that's all you need to know. But Roxas is one of the most tragic characters, and you play as him in the start of Kingdom Hearts 2. People hated that. Like when Kingdom Hearts 2 first came out, like I don't want to play as this blonde dweeb. But by the time you've played Kingdom Hearts 2 and you've got through the prologue, you become really attached to him. Like he's one of the most emotional characters in Kingdom Hearts.
It's played
And
by
then
Jesse McCartney. Does
He's
that
played
move
by
the
Jesse
needle?
McCartney. Beautiful soul. You know that, Stace.
I do, of course, I know a bit of Beautiful Soul.
Um,
I
so when you
want
get to
another
this
pretty
fight,
face.
you've had like 30 hours with Sora. Roxas is like a distant memory, and then for him to pop up in the world that never was, and to have another character who wields a keyblade, because you're usually fighting massive Heartless or you're fighting organization members with weird
Do you
weapons.
never fight Disney
but
characters? I feel like you fight Disney characters. Is
You
that
fight a
not
lot
a
of
thing?
Disney
You kind of do in
yeah.
Kingdom Hearts 1, but
In
they
one.
That's the only one I've played.
2 sometimes, yeah, but then like 3 onwards, never. They don't like
Right.
it. I think Davy Jones was the only one I can think of.
There's not even a real Disney character. That's what an odd decision for this game with the world's most valuable IP at its disposal to make.
Oh god.
I knew the risk of bringing up Kingdom Hearts. But anyway, I will continue. So the fight against Roxas is one of the toughest up to that point, and he's just matching you blow for blow. And the emotional weight of that moment is enough. Like, if the boss battle sucked, if the gameplay was bad, the emotional weight of fighting your other, who you've taken the life of technically, like, he doesn't get to exist because you do, but he's his own person. Kingdom Hearts crap, ignore that. But the emotional weight of that, combined with Kingdom Hearts 2's mechanics, impeccable. Such a good scene. And that's like the least interesting boss on my list. That's just my favorite. But then you have
Is this more or less emotional than the ending of Infamous 2?
more emotional, way more emotional. It hit me harder. But like Syax, for instance. Oh no, not Syax.
Syax?
Syax is kind of boring actually. Demix, he's fun. So he has
Demix
these
is
water
fun.
clones that he makes with his sitar, and you have to like defeat the water clones before defeating him. And then Luxord, he I hate him. He's like a massive pain. He's one of the dice and the cards, Eric.
Yeah, so there's a lot of boss fights in Kingdom Hearts 2. And similar to what I was saying about Midnight Suns is that none of them are just, what if we took a bad guy and made him have 1 billion health? Like they are pretty mechanically dense and thematically really strong. They're memorable. That's what George is trying to convey. All these boss fights he remembers.
As ever, I serve it with a good suggestion, and then you guys take it away with explaining what I actually mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're incredible. There are so many good ones. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Lingering Will, who is the optional boss of Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Remix, which is like the re-release that updated and improved it. Stacey's eyes are glazing over as I talk about Kingdom Hearts. But
Kingdom
Lingering
Hearts
Will,
2.8 to 11.
that's a different thing. But
Death by Dropless, Remix, Rebirth in Tears. So yeah, I know my stuff.
depressingly, 80% of those are actually correct.
Yeah, those
are
are all real games.
Those are all titles. Lingering Will is an optional boss, and he is the second hardest boss in the whole series. Like, he's a total
Who's the hardest?
nightmare. Yuzora from Kingdom Hearts 3. That guy is hell. He was almost enough to be the game I nominated, but I thought about Kingdom Hearts 3's bosses overall versus Kingdom Hearts 2's. I think it's no contest. And apparently I'm wrong because Eric thinks Kingdom Hearts 1 has the best bosses.
Yeah,
which
Kingdom Hearts
I
1 has
want
the
to
best
hear.
bosses for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me why. Elaborate.
Kingdom Hearts, the first one's bosses, first of all, are Disney characters. So
yeah, you fight the Hydra from Hercules.
the good ones are.
You do that in 2. You do that in
fight
2
the
as
Hydra in
well.
2.
Yeah.
You fight Captain Hook, which is a
Clayton,
great one.
right?
You fight Clayton on a invisible.
Oh yeah,
chameleon.
Clayton. Everyone
Great
loves
fight.
Clayton.
Yeah,
There's a
you fight
point.
Ursula. Like, obviously those are better, but also they're just mechanically more interesting. The trickster fight, and the different ways you can approach that fight. I think I wrote about this.
You did.
I'm feeling like I wrote about how good the trickster fight is.
Is that where you wrote about how people have discovered a brand new way to do it? I think I remember that. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, great fight. But way better. Overall combat in 2 is better, but the boss fights in 1 are better. They're more iconic.
I agree to a point where Kingdom Hearts 1, I think of the Ursula fight, you have to do a spell into her cauldron to then be able to attack her. I think they are interesting, but I don't think they're as fun to play.
Chernobog.
Yeah, like they're all good. Kingdom Hearts is, to my, I'll say a statement right here. I think Kingdom Hearts has the best boss battles of any series ever. I'm sure you two are rolling your eyes, but I genuinely can't think of many bad ones across a massive series.
They are very good. Yeah,
they are.
Oogie Boogie
In 1 or 2.
In 1.
2 I like at least. Where you're batting the dice towards him, they blow up. There's just so many. We could literally, Stace would hate it.
We couldn't. Yeah, we actually could not, by the way.
All day. But yeah, Kingdom Hearts 2, easily. I could have picked any Kingdom Hearts. They're all fantastic, but 2 has the most for me, I think.
The way that Kingdom Hearts 3's expansion, which is not very good from like a storytelling perspective, but the way that it sort of makes good on the promise
that's so good
of Kingdom Hearts combat with just the 8 of the best boss fights in the whole series, just one after another.
Yeah. I mean, also, 2 did that. They did the data organization battles. It's basically that, but for Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I go 2 or 3 for that one, in terms of the data versions of them. But they're both incredibly strong. They're both great. I think you could pick anyone.
Yeah, I think that one of the best things about Kingdom Hearts is its boss fights, no doubt.
Yeah. We can.
All right, Stacey, sorry. We'll move on.
No. I love you, Sora.
Stacey, what is your favorite game with boss fights?
Well, like you guys, I looked at kind of games that had multiple boss fights rather than necessarily my favorite boss, which led me to 2 games, and the one that I went for was Cuphead.
Okay.
I love a bit of Cuphead.
Yeah. Cuphead's really good.
Yeah,
tough.
And
Another
as
toughie.
real game journalists, we've all finished it.
I never played it. Is it only boss fights?
There's occasionally a couple of platform levels to get upgrades, I think. Okay. But it's mainly a boss rush game. Yeah,
Cool.
80% of the levels I would say are bosses.
Yeah, there's just the platforming ones that are actually probably the worst.
They're gun and runs,
game.
aren't they? More than platformers. They're just constantly shooting and getting through obstacles. There is a reason for doing those, but I can't remember what it is.
You need to collect coins for something. I don't know.
It's
been a while.
I don't think it's needed to progress. I think you need that to do things in the shop. But yes, it's basically a boss rush game, which makes it perfect for multiple boss battles. That's what it has.
Yeah.
And obviously the roadblock for people with Cuphead is it is hard. There's no difficulty settings, and it is tough. But the way in which it does the boss battles and it teaches you those kinds of mechanics, when I play Cuphead, I feel the way that I assume other people play when they play the Souls-like games. I never spend 17 hours on a single boss in Cuphead, but some of them did take me a long time to do. So there's, I would say, 2 basic types of boss battle in Cuphead. There is the one where you run around, and there's one where you're in an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
The airplane ones are great.
They're the ones that put me off of it.
Cala Maria is my favorite boss battle in the whole game.
I don't know.
It was the mermaid.
Hmm.
But there was Beppy the Clown, who is a big sentient roller coaster thing that like loops around. You got to keep jumping over it. There's the Frog Brothers. Can't remember what they're called. They're like boxing.
Yeah,
boxing match.
the boxing ones. I
That's
love
a
that.
cool
What's
one.
the flower? How come I only
The
ever
flower's
see
like
flower?
this. The flower's
Second
the
one, right?
second boss, but you get the first two at the start. So I think a lot of people picked the flower, and
Yeah.
it is really hard for the start of the game. Like, the other one's just like it looks like the blue drip from Dragon Quest. Actually, I don't know what that thing's called, but you know the thing I mean, right? So like
Slime.
water droplets.
Yeah, the
slime.
slime.
That's of course they are. I did know that. First one just looks like a slime from Dragon Quest, and it just bounces. You dodge it, etc. But the flower is much harder. It's you jump on different levels of the leaves, and then it shoots things at you on the top level, the middle level, the bottom level. And yeah, I love the simplicity of Cuphead. There are two things to do in Cuphead. Famously, the tutorial. Everyone has seen the tutorial now. You jump.
Yeah.
If you jump and there's a pink dot, or one of the objects that gets thrown at you is pink, you can double jump on that, and it will flip you up. You'll also get some health back if it's from a pink object, not from just the dots. They're just for like getting extra height. And you shoot things. You can either shoot things while moving, or you can stay in place and shoot, up and down. And it's on a standard like left diagonal up kind of system. So it's really easy. It's really easy to understand it. It's just really hard to do. And the bosses have like set patterns, so you learn them as you go. And every time you die, there's not a health bar on the bosses themselves, but every time you die, it shows you how much the health bar had gone down.
Yeah,
so
it's like
you
a
know how
progress
close
flag.
you were.
That's the worst.
And there's like little prongs for like when the phase changes as well. So it's like there's time when you kind of, fight a boss, and you've been fighting, and the phase changes, like all right, and you die, and then you see there's still one more phase left. You're like, oh, I wasn't even close to finishing it. So yeah, I think why I love Cuphead's boss battles in particular is they pick a specific thing, whether it's a genie, whether it's a bumblebee, whether it's like a land of sweets and chocolates, which is one of the best boss battles. I can't remember her name. They pick the theme and they commit to it fully. It's just a complete carnage of, okay, this is a casino where the frogs are going to box. That's it. That's what it is. And they're able to do it without needing to, how does this fit into the reality of the world? It's just, no, you know what? This moon lady rides a bike in the air.
Yeah.
Get used to it.
Pure Mickey Mouse shorts vibes, like just whatever they want to do.
It's all like obviously the rubber hose style is the aesthetic, but it's also used really well in terms of like that kind of classic cartoon, and the voiceover stuff's like radio from the 30s. The Devil Dice is a really cool one because that one is one of the few ones that is random. The second last boss, I think he is, because you fight Satan at the end. He's a set of dice. And every time you get a attack on him, or he does one of his attacks, the dice roll or he deals some cards. I can't remember which one it is.
I think it's dice.
Yeah. And whatever they land on is what his attack's going to be. So you can't really learn his patterns as well. Like with the rest of them, you kind of know, okay, the genie's going to go up and then down. It's going to go forward. He's going to throw like cans at me. I think that's the robot, isn't it, with the cans?
I
Dr.
don't remember
Carl
the
is his
robot,
name. Yeah, there's a big robot, like it looks like Bender from Futurama, and it like opens its mouth and just like spits things at you. That's another flying one, probably why I don't remember it.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, I've blocked it.
Dr. Carl's robot, I'm sure that one is. But yeah, the dice guy, I can't remember what his name is. You cannot learn what he's going to do because it's different every time. And even if you play it enough that you learn what all, 12 combos, whatever they are, it's always like, oh, what's this one doing? And then by the time it happens, you've like lost a life. So yeah, Cuphead, excellent little boss rush game. I think a lot of people played it and didn't finish it because it is really hard. It's not that it gets easier, but I think you get more used to it.
Yeah,
I think most people can beat the slime guy.
Oh yeah, the slime's just shooting, but I've always compared it to rubbing your stomach and patting your head. That's what that game is. Just constant swapping between what you want to do. It shocks me that you haven't played, Eric. I cannot believe that. Like, it seems like a very it's a skill based game.
Wasn't it Xbox exclusive for a long time?
It was, yeah.
Yes, it was. It was Switch, Switch after, and now PlayStation.
That's why. And then it became an old game, and then I can't play games that didn't come out this week. So, it really is sort of the purest form of pattern recognition.
Yes.
Right? Like, would you say, like, other than the dice one you were describing, can you play these boss fights with your eyes closed once you learn?
I'm sure someone has. Yeah, I'm sure that's a thing.
I don't think I was ever that good at them, but yeah, I think they have that kind of pattern to them. Like some of them do react slightly differently depending on like where. If you stand right at the back, like the pirate ship is a famous one. He shoots where you are, so you need to keep moving. So it's not like a kind of you can go here and you do this, and the B one as well chases you specifically with the chainsaws. But yeah, I think a lot of them there's a sense of like. Are the ones that I probably couldn't do it now. I probably need to get back into the swing of it. But the ones that I struggled on the most, I think I'd be best at if I was dropped in now, just cold. The ones that took me ages to, like the moon bike thing that I hated. That's the one I think I'd be really good at now because I played it so many times, and I'd be like, oh yeah, this means that. Whereas if you put me back in against like the carrot,
the slime, the
slime would be easy because the slime was easy. But like, if you put me back in against the carrot, I'd be like, how does this work again? Even the frogs, I don't remember how they attacked. So I'd be dying a lot while I kind of figured it out. Whereas I think with the bike one or the moon one, I'd be like, oh, okay. Yeah, when this happened, then because I died so many times. It's a knockout.
Yeah, ready?
What about?
This might not be an original thought, but doesn't it seem like all of the Cuphead fights are iterations on Metroid's bosses? Like, aren't they just all like Kraid or Mother Brain?
I think
I am not a big enough Metroid fan.
I think you could make that case about the ones that where you fly. I don't really see that with was he called Barnacle something? I don't really see that with the pirate or Bebby or the sweets lady.
If anything,
the ones where you're flying and moving, I see it.
Yeah, I can kind of get.
Really?
What you mean,
I would have thought it was the opposite.
I think it's Mega Man is more the inspiration. It's
yes,
very
I see more Mega Man
coded.
and those sorts of things.
Okay, fair enough. I was trying to make a smooth transition into Metroid.
What, like a slide in Metroid Dread, where it's a smooth slide.
You roll into it.
Dread is actually my pick. So
you can't change your pick.
No. Of the Metroids.
Okay.
Out of the Metroid games. Now, of course, like Mother Brain is just so iconic. Kraid 2. But I think Ravenbeak at the end of Dread is the series' best boss fight. It is the most intense, the most exciting, definitely the hardest.
It was very hard. I haven't finished many of the Metroids, but I did finish Dread eventually.
I didn't finish Dread, no.
Oh, really? Oh, man.
No, I struggled.
So hard.
Whole game's quite hard, though, I thought.
The whole game is hard, yeah. I was on guides for a lot. Like, where'd you go here? And I didn't have the authentic Metroid experience, I don't think. Maybe that is more authentic. I wasn't doing coverage for it. So I played it a few months after it came out. No, I played it before the end of the year. And it came out in, like, October.
2022, right?
Yeah, because it was up for Game of the Year. It lost to It Takes Two.
Oof. But speaking of Metroidvanias, another one on my list that I actually only thought of as we were here talking about good boss battles is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Incredible boss battles in that game.
You've talked about those before.
Yes. I'm trying to think of the name. The guy, I think it starts with an O, who has like the massive ship anchor, and he's just like smacking it down at you. The one where you team up with yourself. Like Sargon, Sargon. That's one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, the one where you team up with yourself is one of the coolest boss fights. Yeah.
Whole game.
I really love the. I don't remember any of their names now. That's so.
No,
weird.
I don't. I think it's Ozard or something.
The woman with the tiger, with the lion tiger.
Oh
thing,
God, we were both stuck on that for ages, weren't we?
Very hard fight. Yeah, man. Yeah, great.
We were messaging. I remember. I was like, "This is hell. Like this is going to stop me finishing this game."
It's so weird because you reviewed it, so it's like in that time where you can't look things up.
Exactly. It was like, how do I do this? I just do. You figure it out.
You and I were both really suffering in that fight, and I don't think I think that's the hardest fight in that game, and nobody else
They did a
does.
poll. No, they did a poll on the Twitter. I remember I did the news about it, and everyone voted, and I think they all agreed that's the hardest one.
Oh,
She has
really?
like the
Okay.
spear, right? She like chucks a spear
Yeah.
at you. What a game! What a game!
Yeah. Great game. Great game from a studio that no longer exists.
Well, they're on Rayman, hopefully.
Much like Marvel's Midnight Suns.
Yeah. I had a couple of one-offs to highlight. Not
Go
like
on.
this is a game with great boss fights, but
Yeah, I got
this
a couple of one-offs
particular
on my
boss
list.
fight is very good.
Yep.
Some of these everybody knows. Mr. Freeze in
Yep.
Arkham City.
Got that.
Now, see, I think Batman as a whole has some. That was one of the ones that I think you can count so many of them. I know the Joker
Yeah.
one is bad,
Yep.
but
Yeah.
there's like obviously the Scarecrow ones. We've talked before about the Man-Bat stuff, but around the time you get Man-Bat, you also fight Azrael, which is a great fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Origins, there's Electro, the shocker,
The electrocutioner.
the electrocutioner. That was his name. And
Yeah.
he shocks himself to death before you fight him, and
Yeah.
like sets up like it's going to be a massive boss fight.
That is very funny.
I love. I think Mr. Freeze is the best, even though it's one of the things that people talk about it so much that people now convince themselves it's not that good. It is good.
It is
great.
It is good.
Fantastic.
It's inspired so
Arkham
many
has
fights.
so
like
many
that.
as a series, though.
Yeah. But also really bad ones, right? Like the
Titan
tank
Joker.
fight is so bad.
Yeah.
All the tank fights. Anything.
Yeah.
What
to do with
about
bat-
the
bat
Riddler
tank.
boss fight? That's just a race around a
Oh,
guy, like a sewer grid.
Yeah. That
Ugh.
sucks.
Can you solve my riddle?
I hate anything to do with the
Paul
bat
Walker
tank in
could
that
solve
game.
this riddle.
But yes, you're right. Mostly pretty good ones.
Which is a shame because they're not in Suicide Squad.
Ooh,
Oh, I don't. Yeah. Let's not even talk about that. What a
I didn't mind the
disappointment.
Flash one. The Flash one gave me, maybe it's going to be okay, and the rest of them were bad. I didn't like any of the
Everything's
rest of
just
them.
shooting. Like you go up against Superman.
Everything is just shooting. Yeah, I didn't mind the shooting when it was the Flash because it was like you slow him down.
Yeah, and he's like moving.
I
He's doing
didn't like Green
tornadoes.
Lantern. I didn't like Wonder Woman. I didn't like. We didn't do Wonder Woman. But, I didn't like the whole Wonder Woman and Batman thing.
Batman sucked as well. The whole game. Oh, bleh.
Well, to round out superheroes, I think Spider-Man 2 has some really great boss fights.
Yes.
And in particular, I don't know if this is the most popular opinion, but the Mary Jane Scream boss fight is
I thought that was great.
incredible.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's incredible, Stacey.
Mary
I
Jane
really
becoming
like
Scream
it.
is cool. I don't think
Yes.
the boss fight is that cool.
I love that it's just marriage
Okay.
counseling the fight.
I'll convince you.
That's why
Well,
I
not
don't
marriage.
like it. I love Spider-Man 2. I think we all do. I think
Yeah.
especially compared to other people, not just in the world, probably at the game, we all love Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
But some of it is just so hackneyed.
No.
No, I love it.
It's awesome.
It's
Oh,
not the
sorry,
best fight in that
I
game.
stand
Though.
corrected.
The best fight in that game is Miles versus Peter. That is incredible.
Hold on. Don't go off topic.
That is topic.
We're talking about Mary Jane.
Okay, let's talk Mary Jane.
Don't you think the domestic theme of it is so clever? Like even staging that fight in their neighborhood.
Yeah,
My
I'm on
problem
your
with
side.
that
I don't know
is
why I froze.
they aren't. That's not what what they're setting up. Is that the symbiote is a metaphor for drug abuse, drug dependency, and the lust for power. And then
Yes.
Peter kind of goes, actually, I'm going to be a good father and a good husband. And he doesn't have a kid, but, I'm going to be like a good guy. I don't like the way they abandon that part of it. The reason why the actual best fight, by the way, Mr. Negative, the reason why that works is because it's thematically correct throughout the entire game.
Yes.
That's a full arc that works. I don't like the way they kind of tease the whole, oh, you can't take the symbiote from me, I need it. And then
You're
he's
right.
like, oh, I don't need it no more. Nah, okay.
There are thematic issues with the way the symbiote is represented, no doubt about
Of course.
it. I definitely have criticisms about that. At the same time, what I really connected to in that story was the idea of the shame of letting down the people that you love.
Yes.
And I think that all really comes together in that fight. And I love that it is a fight that you have to, he is getting like punished, that he's getting physically punished for his shortcomings. I think that's such an interesting way to represent his shame.
I agree. I think it's a great fight.
I like the fight enough. I just think it's the best in the game. I guess Spider-Man is his bastion of goodness, and Peter Parker is a really nice guy. If he is in the middle of this highly charged fight with the woman that he loves, that he's in danger of losing, I don't think he necessarily acts like that. It's not really a fight. It's her telling him off. And I don't think anybody, no matter how nice and virtuous they are, has that kind of highly charged emotional argument and resorts to, I know, I'm so sorry. No, I just don't think that I don't think that's necessarily realistic writing. And I know it's not realistic because she's infected by alien space goo.
Yeah. I cried.
I didn't.
Also,
I give the game a 4.5. I love it more than most people. I was on the upper end of reviews, which is rare for me. So, I love Spider-Man. I would defend it a lot. I think its boss battles are excellent. I think its writing is pretty good in a lot of places. I think its characters are great. Just felt like having an argument.
And you agree with me that the Miles fight is the best one, Stacey?
No, I think it's Mr. Negative still.
Oh, you agree that it's the best fight? Yeah, so the best fight is Miles versus Spider-Man. I love their relationship. We're talking a lot about Spider-Man, but it has such good boss battles. It's fine.
Yeah.
Their relationship is, to me, the core of Spider-Man 2. Obviously, because they mucked up the other half by ruining their kind of metaphor about drug dependency and basically everything to do with the symbiote. So I think it then falls on Miles and Peter, and then to see them come to blows. Obviously, we've joked before on this show about Miles' plotline being that he can't do an essay.
He can't do his homework.
30 minutes to do in real life. But I just love it. I love their dialogue. I love the way it's kind of reversed on you, these powers you've been using.
And the thing with that fight is, I do think, more than the Mary Jane fight, they act realistic. Because Miles idolizes Peter, but he's angry with him in this fight. He's not begging him to accept him or like him or please, Mr. Parker, what did I do wrong? He is saying, this is unacceptable, Mr. Peter.
You're a dick.
Yeah, basically, he reacts, I think, more realistically. But it's not as good as the Mr. Negative fight.
No, the Mr. Negative fight is good.
I think that game does a lot of really cool, very bold things with how it reimagines Spider-Man lore, how it takes pretty niche, deep lore and makes it its own. I think, and I know that there's weird comic book purists that took issue with some of this stuff, which is always the most annoying position you can take, is to be pure about the canon of comic books that by definition changes nonstop. But I loved their take on Anti-Venom. I thought that was such a cool way to bring that character in, much cooler than the actual Anti-Venom. And then combining Mary Jane with Scream is so novel to the I had to look up if Mary Jane has ever had the Scream symbiote, because it's such a perfect.
Yeah,
it just
I think
works
it was
so
never,
well,
right? I'm
yeah,
pretty
and
sure
that's just their thing. Yeah, but it works so well. Yeah,
justice for Spider-Man 2 is what we're saying.
I mean, the problem
that game it did really well.
I'm gonna say the problem with Justice for Spider-Man 2 is you end up being those people who are it should have won Game of the Year, and it wasn't even top 3.
No.
Baldur and God of War.
I had that written down. Baldur and God of War, I think, is contender for the best boss battle. I don't think
might be the
whole
best boss battle ever.
Holds it up. I went for a game that had a load of boss battles, but Baldur on its own, amazing.
That one
of the best openings in a game ever.
Yes. So that's the thing.
Let's all do that when we pick best opening.
It is bolstered by the context, and I think when we look at the best boss fights ever, it does not come down to the mechanics, how tight the parrying is, right? It's how meaningful that boss fight is a much bigger factor than how fun it is to press the X button.
I mean, even go back to Spider-Man. That's why we all picked our favorite Spider-Man battle, is because of the story behind them.
What they're about. Yeah. And this one rules. On top of that, you are punching each other miles across the forest.
Just through mountains.
Yeah, that is just the most over the top, craziest God versus God, all one shot. Like, it's so amazingly constructed. It's also the opening of this game and how a new vision for what a God of War game will be is presented to you.
It doesn't just open this game, it opens God of War. What you saw before was a different thing.
Yeah.
This is what God of War is now. And it does it in a way that I think brings all of the fans of the old one on board, because it's not kind of rejecting that. It's not kind of like in Devil May Cry when he throws away the silver wig. It's embracing like what God of War always has been. It's a massive high octane bloody battle, just like the series has always had. But also, the reason it's happening is because he's trying to leave that life behind and protect his son.
Yep.
I think, Stace, you said Devil May Cry, another series of excellent boss battles. I think Devil May Cry 5, Nero versus Virgil. Anyone versus Virgil really is just a fantastic fight. Like, again, the thematic nature of that. Like, I love the scene where Nero's running up the stairs after he's called Kyrie, and he's like saying he's going to bring them back and his arm regrows. Again, sobbing. A lot of these boss battles had me in tears, but
yeah, it's good. Scene. Nero is kind of the Roxas of the Devil
Nero is kind of the Roxas, thank you. And that's why we love him.
I agree. I love Devil May Cry's boss fights. I also love both the end and the boss from Metal Gear Solid 3.
Yeah.
Metal Gear Solid had to be in here, really. I mean, Psycho Mantis as well, obviously.
Psycho Mantis as well. Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah. Revolver Ocelot. Vamp. I think that's a cool fight. There's plenty. There's a lot of good ones, but the end is such a unique boss fight because, well, it's a predator and prey scenario. You know, it's not a battle of strength. It's more of a battle of will, and it's really scary. It's really tense and overwhelming that whole time, even though nothing is happening. Right. You're just running around in the jungle trying not to get your head blown off. Such a cool fight. And then the like cinematic, you know, the Sergio Leone of it all when you get to the boss fight at the end and the song and the flowers. It's just like, that's peak Kojima to me.
I'm waiting to say it, but Dead Rising has some pretty good boss battles, you know?
God. Oh my god.
We can have 1 week.
That's all I'll say. They are...
The Psychos are pretty cool. From one game that we always talk about, a game that we never talk about, even though it's fantastic, because neither of you, I don't think, particularly care for it. Baldur's Gate 3. Which we didn't mention for Dragons or multiple endings, despite it having both and then both being great.
True, very true.
So I'm this time I'm going to make you guys talk about Baldur's Gate 3. One, the dragon and Will's storyline that Will doesn't need to be there for, which I won't spoil what that's actually about, because that's a really cool like origin for D&D lore, not just Baldur's Gate. But that's an excellent fight. It's an undead dragon. I don't think that needs to be said anymore. But Raphael, neither of you got as far as Raphael, did you?
I know who he is. I encountered him, so I know he's
you meet him after like 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's all I know.
Well, you fight him at the end of the game. He's not like the last battle. He's not like the final battle. It's like in Act 3, you go into his house to steal. I'm not going to get into the whole thing. That's not important. But he's a devil. He has his own theme music. The theme music reacts to the types of things that you're doing. The way that he summons different creatures is completely different to other encounters that you have in Baldur's Gate, and yet is very in keeping with the lore. Can't really oversell how impressive the soundtrack is. You know, I never care about soundtracks in games. We've had this conversation on this show before. I just don't care for it. But Raphael's is an exception. Excellent music all the way throughout. Great fight, great personality. The way he summons different things is cool. I can't remember exactly how it works, but there's a creature in his house that's like being kept as a slave. And if you like do the right sequence of events, he will come and help you during this fight. And if you don't, then he'll be forced to fight against you because Raphael, owns him, controls him through like devil dealings. Is really into it.
Magic.
So that's a really cool, like, I think a lot of games have tried previously to do what Baldur's Gate does and kind of make your choices seem like they matter, but do they really? Baldur's Gate actually, like, there's things that echo through Baldur's Gate from little choices that you make, that there's so much like depth and detail into it. It does feel like you're playing D&D and someone behind the DM screen is having to go, oh god, okay, we'll change that. That didn't happen. We'll do this instead. It feels like it's being rewritten for you as you play it. And you get some really cool underwear for this fight.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And you don't need to wear clothes in Baldur's Gate. You can just run around in your underwear if you want to still get the armor bonus.
Why didn't you start there?
Stacey has mentioned a 2023 game that's very good, so I thought I would as well. Hi-Fi Rush, incredible boss battles as well, but my favorite of those is the one against Corsica. I don't know if you two got that far. Which for shame.
I haven't played it.
What?
Oh, once you get the parry, it becomes the best game ever.
Yes, but anyway, Corsica. So for the rest of the game, obviously it's all about rhythm and movement. You get the idea. I've talked about it before. But for Corsica, instead of attacking her because she becomes an ally, you're basically doing like a rhythm game of Simon Says, like defending against her, and it's just really cool. Like it's a nice spin on the rest of the game where you're attacking stuff.
I don't think I got that far. One of their short boss battles is one game that I want to touch on because I very nearly picked it. Similar to the Electrocutioner, my favorite moment from Star Wars Jedi Survivor, a game I don't have that many favorite moments from, the hall monitor. What's his name, George? I can't remember.
Rick, door technician.
Oh, yeah.
He runs to people who don't know it. I'm going to spoil this moment in the game for you, so sorry. But when you get into one of the like stormtrooper bases, one of the stormtroopers runs towards you, and it comes up with Rick, the door technician, and the boss music plays. He gets a huge health bar across the screen, and it sets up like it's going to be a massive fight. And then you shoot him and he dies instantly because he's just like some nobody. His job is to like push the buttons on the door for the real stormtroopers. So he dies in an instant.
Great example those days. I hadn't even considered that, but Ogden.
I thought I don't like the Star Wars games as much as you.
Yeah.
It's not even just Jedi, but yeah, there's some good boss battles in there.
Ones,
the last boss battle of Survivor, which I won't spoil, that also is a massive spoiler, is cool.
Yeah. And for Fallen Order as well. The one before the big moment, I also won't spoil, even though that game's old. Go on, Eric.
I have 4 more, so let me go through them like pretty quickly because it turned out I had more to say about boss fights than I originally anticipated, and we're starting to go a little long.
Yeah,
but I have to mention Returnal.
Yes.
Yeah.
God.
Hyperion.
Yep.
That's his name. Yeah.
Yep. Well, I think all 4 of them. I'm counting 4 bosses in that game are fantastic. Some of the best bullet hell boss fights ever, and become so much better when you discover the lore behind them. I think it becomes so much more meaningful and interesting when you eventually learn and then look back at them and understand what they're really about.
The man who doesn't like dying over and over and over again in boss battles loves Returnal.
Yes, that is the exception. And that's what makes Returnal incredible. It makes something I hate, it turns it into something I love. Yes, I can say the same about Hollow Knight, which has brutally difficult boss fights, but fantastically designed. The perfect, like, incredibly hard, but also perfectly fair boss fights. And the optional boss fights, including the like secret ending boss, the Radiance, so good. Some of my favorites. The other 2 are Final Fantasy 16.
Ooh, yes.
Ifrit and with something else.
Bonkers boss fights, just the most heavy metal, like the music, just everything. I didn't finish that game. I think that game's got a lot of problems. Yeah. But every boss fight, I was just like, hell yeah, brother. Let's go.
Were you playing these boss fights or just watching them on?
I was watching them. Yeah, they're just,
they're really cool to watch.
2-hour cinematics.
No.
Yeah.
Put some respect on its name. I finished that game, and Eric is 100% right. I can't believe I didn't think of that either.
Yeah, amazing.
So many boss fights.
And then the other one was Remnant from the Ashes, which we haven't talked about, but is a game that's very special to me.
You've mentioned that before, but I can't place it.
Remnant is the Dark Souls shooter.
That'd be why I don't play it.
Yeah.
Did they do a second one recently?
They did a second one. Yeah, it's been out for a year. They just finished their last DLC update for it. So Remnant has a tile system so that each run there, it's not a roguelike. There is a roguelike mode they added, but the regular game you play beginning to end, and you'll have random changes each time you play it, so that you'll have different bosses in the same place. There's a lot of branching paths in it, and it's a game you're meant to play repeatedly. But the bosses are so hard and their power levels are so varied that your run through the game becomes more memorable based on the bosses that you're forced to go up against. Like, you can have a really unlucky playthrough where you get all the hardest bosses and it just sort of becomes a lot more memorable. But just to touch on a couple of them, because I think all the boss fights in this game are so clever. One of the World 1 mini bosses, there's like a world boss at the end of each world, and then a bunch of mini bosses you'll fight throughout. One of them's called Riphide. And Riphide is this guy. He only does two things. He walks at you slowly, and then he stands still and charges up and unleashes a wave, and you have to dodge into the wave to not take damage. The twist of it is that once he takes a little bit of damage, like 5%, he splits into two. And now you've got two guys, and they're both doing their wave. And then when you damage those guys, they split into two. So this fight starts out, and you're like, this is stupid. Not like, this is the easiest fight. This is easier than just regular dudes in the game. But then by the end of the fight, there's like 40 of them, and the room is filled with copies of them, and they're all doing their burst thing. And you're just diving into wave after wave after wave and trying to nail down all of them. It's so cool. It's such a hard fight. And yeah, Remnant is full of really cool stuff like that. Okay, I think that's all mine. Is that all yours?
I have two more, but we don't need to dwell on them because I think everyone knows. But I just think they're worth mentioning. They very nearly picked, I said, between Cuphead, Crash Bandicoot.
Yes,
series of truly phenomenal boss battles.
Yeah.
You jump over the electric bolt from Entropy, and you run along the little thing. You fight Engine in the spaceship. Koala Kong's throwing coal mines at you for some reason.
Pinstripe
Potteroo in his little office, and
yeah, Tiny in the Coliseum.
Yeah, Tiny in the Coliseum, and Tiny in space. Tiny gets two boss battles.
Tiny in space, and Dingodile.
Mo and Joel with the sabers. Yeah,
Dingodile with the wall of icicles.
Yeah, that's three. That's excellent. Don't like the Cortex fight in 1 or 2. It's good in 3.
2, yeah, 2's awful, but the third one I love. 2's like when you're flying in space,
one is on
right?
his blimp.
Yeah.
2 is you're like running along. It's like a race against Cortex for some reason.
Yeah.
On asteroids. Also Hades, we should probably mention. Hades has just got some
Hades 2 is going to be one of mine. The Siren Song one from that. I know you haven't played it, but that is the best fight in the series. 1 has some great ones as well. All of them, actually. Yeah, literally,
they're all
not a bad one.
And then the last one that I had, I don't really know how much you count boss fights in Pokemon. The gym leaders, is it the Elite Four? But fighting Red is definitely, to my mind, a boss battle. And that's a great moment. It's a great moment when you just find him just standing there just on the little rock. And then he's got a great team. He's got the starters and Pikachu and Snorlax, I think, is his team. Fantastic. Fantastic boss battle.
Love Red.
One of the few trainers who are actually, like, even if you beat the game, he's going to be very difficult to fight against.
Yeah, serious fight. Oh, shoot. Sorry, I do have one more. This was almost my pick, but I didn't want to annoy both of you.
George and Kingdom Hearts, so I'm glad
I went Kingdom Hearts and then talk Dead Rising and Hi-Fi. So
Destiny 2. So if you think of raids as boss fights, which they are, they have multiple boss fights. They end with a boss fight. That experience of me and 5 friends bashing our head against a boss fight for all day or an entire weekend and then finally taking it down, there's nothing like it. I have never had another experience like that. Like doing a boss fight with your friends and having to figure it out is so cool. And Destiny has some incredible raid bosses. I think that as there are countless things to criticize Destiny for, but its raids are some of the best things that exists in video games. No doubt about it.
One day I'll play, Eric. One day.
Oh, you can't start now. It's already in like thrown out the first.
Maybe Destiny.
And raiding is like the last thing you do in Destiny. It's like the hardest thing to do in Destiny.
When they do a new one, I'll join you. We'll do it together.
Well, Destiny Rising, it's in alpha right now.
No, okay, never mind. I think
we
I'm
can
good.
get our mobile on.
I'd rather not.
Next week, best mobile games. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, cool. Those are our favorite games with boss fights. Now we want to know your favorite game with boss fights. So leave us a comment. That's it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week with another episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and visit us at thegamer.com. That's The Gamer. No spaces.